Thanks. Good morning. My name is Brittany Morgan, and I am a Wills Eye glaucoma patient and chat room volunteer and moderator. I spoke last year, and this year I'm going to be talking about my story and experiences with glaucoma, and also how I live at the office, at work, and school, and in life socially, and how I cope with dealing with this disease. My story actually starts at birth. I was born with a cataract. Sorry, one sec. There we go. I was born with a cataract in my left eye and operated on at 13 days old. When I was born, the doctor and nurse actually missed the cataract. So for the first 2 weeks of my life, I was living with a cataract when I was an infant. Then at 13 days old, the doctor removed the cataract from my eye, and I began to force my two eyes to see together. Unfortunately, this is not where my story ends. It's where it begins with glaucoma. At age 7, I developed glaucoma in that same eye, which I believe was a direct result from the cataract. Since I have no history of glaucoma in my family, that's what I think it was from. And the doctor performed a trabeculotomy surgery, which I was told was the least invasive surgery, so we started with that and hoped that that would work. Unfortunately, it did not work, and after the surgery, my pressure began to rise, and we were back at square one. The doctor then operated again and implanted a tube shunt in my left eye that you just heard about. And this actually decreased my pressure, and in this case, it stayed down. So the surgery was successful. And this was at age 7, and now I'm 25, and so far it's been very successful, and I hope it will stay successful. So thank you for asking that question before. Before and after the surgeries, I had to be patched. Since I only had glaucoma in one eye, which was my left eye, I had to force my right eye to see and to really work. So I was patched from birth until 9 years old, about 3 hours a day, I would say. This was not easy. When I was an infant, I wanted to take the patch off. I would fidget, and my parents had to be very diligent in making sure that I kept the patch on for those 3 hours every day until I was 9. When I became older, I took on this responsibility myself, and I learned how important this was for my eye and that I had to be diligent and I had to be the responsible one and conscientious in making sure that I kept my patch on. It was difficult at times. I had to do my homework, I had to practice the piano, I had to go out with my friends and socialize like every other child, and at times it was frustrating and sometimes embarrassing to go out with an eye patch on, but it was something that I had to do since it was important for my both eyes to work and see properly, and it allowed me to be responsible and gain these qualities that I have today, which I'm grateful for. During this time, I also used drops very frequently right after my surgeries to ward off infection and to keep my pressure down. I remember going away to overnight camp when I was younger, and I took on this responsibility of making sure that I would put my drops in every day, and in fact I had a calendar that I created with my parents where I would check off every time I put drop A in and drop B in, and I made sure that I had to put these drops in and that I was very diligent in making sure that they were put in, since this was going to keep my pressure down and I didn't want to have another surgery. And I remember when I went to camp, I asked my parents if I could take on this responsibility and put the drops in myself and not go to the nurse, which is what all the other kids did when they had to take their medication. And they said, sure, but you have to take on this responsibility. And I did, and it was a great experience for me. But in hindsight, I'm kind of surprised that they allowed me to do that, since it was such a big decision. I'm not so sure I would do that with my kids in the future, but it worked well, and it definitely taught me a lot. So today I'm proud to stand here and say that I have, overcome this disease. I'm 25. My tube shunt is successful. It's been working, and I hope that it continues to work all my life. I hope there's no expiration date. If there is, and that time comes, I'll deal with it. And my pressure is low in the teens. I have 20/25 vision in my good eye, which is my non-glaucoma eye, and about 20/30 vision in my glaucoma eye. And I'm off all drops, and I actually I just graduated from law school, Columbia Law School, and I went to the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. And I'm now working at a law firm in New York City. Even though I've overcome this disease, the aftermath of glaucoma is sometimes the more challenging and difficult part. Certainly in the office, at work, school, etc. When I started my job, I started to struggle with several different problems with my eyes. They became red frequently, they would dry up, the lighting would sometimes impact my eyes at the office, and I started to think, how am I going to handle this big law firm job when I am having these difficulties so early on? I'm about 7 months into my job. So I started to think, what can I do? I'm a first-year associate. I oftentimes am at the office until 10 or 11 p.m., sometimes 1 in the morning. It's pretty draining. So I started to think, I started, Googling on my computer, what can I do to help my eyes? I went to the doctor, and these are some of the things that I've come up with that have helped me so far, and hopefully they help you and other family members that you know that are struggling with glaucoma. First is, the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, which was enacted in 1990, a piece of legislation that is put in place to help protect against disability discrimination, among other things, in the workplace. So it's important to know your rights are being protected, and it's important to know what's in this piece of legislation so that if you come up with a problem or face a problem at work, then you know how to deal with it, and you know what is exactly being protected. Second, communication with your employer. I remember when I first started, I was put into an office where I share an office with an office mate, and I was put at, there's a window seat and then an internal seat. And I was originally put at the internal seat. And then when I had to move offices, they wanted to put me at the window seat. And the window seat is very draining on my eyes. The light hurts. It impacts me in a very negative way. So I spoke up and I asked, my employer if there was any way that I could have the internal seat and not be near the window. And it was actually a struggle at times because they had everything set up and they wanted me in this particular spot. But eventually, I got the seat that I needed, and they were willing to accommodate that. So it worked out well. Third is proper lighting. Oftentimes, if you're in a window seat, try to close the blinds. Try to dim the lights. There are definitely ways where you can minimize the strain that your eyes face from the lighting. Fourth is minimize computer strain. When I got to the office, I had protective computer screens placed on my computers, and I also changed the background of my computer light. Instead of working on Microsoft Word in a white background, I now use a gray background, which is less straining on your eyesight. Fifth is to blink frequently. I sometimes forget this as I am staring at legal documents or my computer. It is very important to blink. It lubricates the eyes and it will keep you sane. Sixth is to use eye drops, lubricate your eyes as well. I went to the doctor when I started having problems, and they said that every 2 hours or so I should be putting an eye drop in my eye and lubricating my eye. Even I wear a contact lens, I should take the contact lens out and wet the contact lens and then put it back in my eye. This would alleviate some of the dryness and the redness and help cope at work a little bit more. Seventh is to take breaks. The 20-20 rule, which I read about, which is to take every 20 minutes, look at something that's 20 inches away or so for 20 seconds so that you can just focus your eyesight on something else that isn't just your computer or legal documents or whatever it is that you're working with. In school also, I tried to utilize the resources that were at my disposal. I had note takers if I wanted to have them. I had additional time for examinations. There were even textbooks that you could get on tape with e-readers, which I didn't use, but some of my other friends did. And this was definitely very helpful when you're in school, when you're, in a demanding situation or environment. It's good to utilize everything that you can and make life easier for you, since it's hard. And then also just in life, socially or, outside of the work, it's important to be responsible about, living with glaucoma. It's important to go to the eye doctor. It's important to use drops if you need them, to wear protective eyewear if you need them, to wear sunglasses when you go outside if the light bothers you. It's also important to have an outlook for some of the frustration and stress that you deal with every day. I know that I use the Facebook chat groups that we have, and we host online monthly sessions where physicians offer their time to answer questions that any patients have about glaucoma, and I offer some of my own experiences that I've faced struggling with glaucoma. And I think it's important to have these outlooks in addition to the support of your friends and family. And last, my story is also available to read online if you would like. And you can email me for any questions about medical advice support, anything that you are experiencing at work, your family, your kids are experiencing. I'm happy to help and answer all questions. So thank you.
We'll take questions now.